Well, ladies and gentlemen, I did a video that went pretty big on our channel, and it was talking about Gina Carano and the absolute ridiculous, like 4 or 5 people who were activists at the Vancouver Fan Expo that were trying to protest against Gina Carano. Well, apparently Gina Carano just recently did a podcast that basically blew the whistle on the relationship she had with Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm and how absolutely god-awful it is to work for the evil queen known as Kathleen Kennedy.
And Kathleen Kennedy, I think, was like towards the end, and she shook everybody else's hand, and I go to shake her hand, and she didn't shake my hand.
Get out of here.
So we have an article here from Phantom Pulse with a headline that reads, Gina Carano blows the whistle on her toxic relationship with Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm. Ladies and gentlemen, you guys already know where I stand on the whole Gina Carano thing. Obviously, what happened to her was ridiculous. Disney's absolutely stupid for doing so. They didn't do anything to anybody else who was talking politics at the time other than her, because everybody else was talking left-wing ideology, and she was the only one that was against this stuff, and she got roasted and fired for it. So let's get into this article, guys, from Phantom Pulse. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. So it says Gina Carano, the woman who played fan favorite character Cara Dune on Disney's The Mandalorian, has just revealed some very eye-opening details from her time working at Lucasfilm. The blacklisted actress, who was unceremoniously fired by Lucasfilm after a tweet of hers criticizing the reactions went viral, has recently filed a lawsuit against Disney and Lucasfilm for wrongful termination. Now she is speaking out about what she had to endure while working on The Mandalorian, most notably the hostile treatment from Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy. Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, I've been saying for a long time, Kathleen Kennedy is like the Hillary Clinton of Disney. This woman must have so much dirt on everybody over there at Lucasfilm and Disney that maintains her status quo. It can't be her performance, because her performance is god-awful. Ever since she took over, she has run Lucasfilm into the ground. Lucasfilm is not what it used to be, obviously, especially when George Lucas obviously was in charge. But when Disney got their hands on it, it's just been non-stop god-awfulness that nobody wants to sit around and deal with it. So we have another iteration of somebody coming out and finally speaking against Kathleen Kennedy, and we need to support this as much as we possibly can. I almost wonder if the trial is going to be made public, although I don't think it's going to be, but I wish it would be, so that everybody can have on full display what Disney is like. What Disney cares about is looking good. They don't care about money. They don't care about anything else other than looking good. That is the most important thing to them, and they know that that's why they virtue signal for. That's why they shill for so many different ideologically based things, because not only do they profit off of it, but they also try to look good in the public eye when they do it. It says in a 2-hour sit-down on the PBD podcast, Gina Carano went over many of the noteworthy moments from her time with the cast and crew of the hit Disney Plus show. She discussed how her co-workers all reacted to her firing in their own way. While some of them were hesitant at first to reach out to her, most of them, including Pedro Pascal and the late Carl Weathers, disagreed with the reasons behind her termination. Now, as much as I hate Pedro Pascal and everything he stands for, if that is true, that he actually reached out and said he disagreed, I'm going to say that's great, but I'm also going to say that's weak. And the reason why I'm going to say that's weak is because you didn't publicly come out and disagree with it. You didn't publicly come out and say what they did was wrong to Gina Carano. You just stood quiet. So it doesn't really matter how much you reach out to someone privately and tell them that you disagree with what happened to them. You're not speaking up about it. You're trying to maintain your status quo. You're trying to maintain your own job. And I get it. But as an actor, you could be hired for pretty much anywhere, any studio. But unfortunately, a lot of these studios are based in leftist ideology, and they're so extreme that they're willing to fire people like Gina Carano over it. So people like Pedro Pascal and Carl Weathers, unfortunately, didn't speak up. And as much as I love Carl Weathers, he also didn't speak up about it publicly, not to my knowledge. If he did, you guys can correct me, but I don't believe that he did. None of these people did. And that's the issue. If you all disagree with it, you need to speak up about it. Even if it's a small forum, like a YouTube video, something, anything, just to get the word out. Disney might fire them. Obviously, that's a risk. But, I mean, if you really cared, you would speak out. It says, watching this interview, it became incredibly obvious that Ms. Carano had to choose her words very carefully. While she applauded Kathleen Kennedy for her remarkable career, she was very blunt about their conflicting energies, going so far as to describe their relationship like two magnets pushing against each other. When the host of the podcast asked Gina when it became evident that the two of them had conflicting energies, she revealed that it was from the very start of her time at Lucasfilm. But I mean, that's obvious, right? You can see that coming from a mile away. Somebody like Kathleen Kennedy, that woman, when women have power to that extent, you guys got to realize realize this. You know, you can say what you want. When women have power to that extent, not many of them can actually handle it without letting it get to their head and pulling some extreme shit. Most of them will become very extreme, very, very much just power hungry to the point where you can't go against anything they say. And I'm sure that Gina Carano probably went against a lot of what Kathleen Kennedy said. So of course those two are gonna, you know, butt heads. She says, it was from the very beginning. I remember when we went to the Star Wars celebration and we were all up on stage and we go through, you know, everybody. They go through, you know, they get announced and they go through and they shake everybody else's hand. And Kathleen Kennedy, I think was like that towards the end, and she shook everybody's hand and I go to shake her hand and she didn't shake my hand. You see what I'm saying? Like when they get to that level, the pettiness is just extreme, ladies and gentlemen. This is the difference between men and women. Men can work with people that they hate, right? Like men can work with other men that they hate. As long as they can all reach the same exact goal, they don't care. Women, forget about it. They cannot work with somebody they hate. They will make sure everybody knows about it. They will make sure it's on their face and you can read it from a mile away. They can't handle it. It eats them up from the inside. I'm telling you, I've seen this happen time and time again. It says, and I was like, all right, what is that? She just looked at me. When it was suggested that maybe Kathleen Kennedy was threatened by Gina, she just responded with, I have no idea. I just realized, like, that's the energy. That's what that's like. That was my first introduction into Star Wars. Like, I'm all excited and I'm happy to be up on stage. And then I was like, okay. And again, this is Kathleen Kennedy here, ladies and gentlemen. The Force is female. This is who's in charge of Star Wars. This is why this is why Star Wars is as terrible as it is. I've given up on Star Wars ages ago. I obviously report on Disney and Lucasfilm because that's part of my job on YouTube, but ultimately I don't consume the content. I've been very upfront and honest about that. I don't watch it anymore. I gave up after the newest trilogy that came out years ago. I don't care. Like, Star Wars is completely dead to me. Everything they do is going to lead right back to the bullshit that made me hate it in the first place. So I don't care how good or how bad these TV shows are. For me, I'm over and I'm done. It says the conversation will later shift to where responsibility lies and when it comes to the miserable condition that the Star Wars franchise currently finds itself in. While much of the blame can and should be attributed to Disney CEO Bob Iger, Gina Carano believes that Kathleen Kennedy is ultimately responsible as she is the president of Lucasfilm. It is very difficult indeed to ignore the multitude of failures that have occurred as a direct result of Kathleen Kennedy's stewardship of Star Wars. It's also painfully obvious that Kathleen Kennedy and the rest of woke Hollywood have adopted a gynocentric feminist worldview, which is true. Yet when presented with a truly strong and independent woman such as Gina Carano, Kathleen Kennedy, and the rest of modern Hollywood couldn't contain their ire. Apparently, the Force isn't female if your name is Gina. That's actually, that last paragraph is written very well, and I agree 100%. They don't know what actual, true, strong, independent women are. They don't know what true masculine men are. They don't know any of this stuff. All they know is their worldview of basically feminism is king. We need to make sure we constantly push feminism in any space we are in. Whatever we got our hands on, feminism has to be the talking point. MCU is a thing. Star Wars female, Force is female is a thing. All of this is a thing because of Kathleen Kennedy, ladies and gentlemen. This is why South Park completely roasted her. She deserves it, and I hope it continues. And I hope that this lawsuit, which apparently has a whole bunch of juicy emails and text messages, will be brought to light so that Disney and Kathleen Kennedy could get the public, attention that they so desperately want. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.